Is this really what you think qualifies as professional work? My father-in-law tossed my presentation across the conference table, papers scattering like autumn leaves. This is why women shouldn't handle important accounts. The words hung in the air of the executive boardroom. No one spoke. The other directors, all men, all friends of my father-in-law, studied their notepads with sudden interest. I spent 3 weeks researching that proposal, I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the humiliation burning my cheeks. The client specifically requested innovative approaches, which is exactly what I delivered. Richard Parker, founder and CEO of Parker Financial Advisors, adjusted his gold cufflinks and smiled with practiced condescension. Natally, dear, clients say they want innovation, but what they actually want is security. 30 years in this business has taught me that. My husband Daniel, sitting beside his father, cleared his throat. Dad's right, Nat. Maybe stick to the smaller accounts while you learn the ropes. I was 34 years old with an MBA from Wharton and 7 years of experience before joining the family firm. There were no ropes left for me to learn. The Westbrook account is mine, I stated firmly. I brought them in. They specifically asked for me to handle their portfolio. And now I'm specifically telling you that Harrison will take over, Richard replied, nodding toward his nephew who had joined the firm straight out of his undergraduate program just 18 months ago. This discussion is closed. I gathered my scattered presentation while the meeting moved on to other matters. This wasn't the first time Richard had undermined me since I joined Parker Financial 3 years ago, shortly after marrying Daniel. It wouldn't be the last. At home that evening, I tried again to make Daniel understand. Your father deliberately humiliated me in front of the entire board. He's been sabotaging my work since day one. Daniel loosened his tie and poured himself a scotch. You're being dramatic. Dad's tough on everyone. It's how he built the company. He's not tough on Harrison, or on you. Just on me. That's different. We're family. I'm family too, Daniel. I'm your wife. He took a long sip before answering. It's not the same. You're family by marriage, not by blood. There's a difference. The words stung more than they should have. I'd heard variations of this sentiment from Richard countless times, but hearing it from my husband cut deeper. So I'll never truly be part of the inner circle, is that it? I asked. Daniel sighed, the sound heavy with impatience. Look, just try harder to fit in. Follow the established protocols. Stop trying to reinvent everything. The established protocols are outdated. We're losing younger clients to more progressive firms. Dad knows what he's doing, Daniel insisted. The firm's been successful for 3 decades following his methods. I gave up trying to make him understand. Daniel had spent his entire life in his father's shadow, seeking approval that always seemed just out of reach. He couldn't see the manipulation, couldn't recognize that Richard's tough love was actually toxic control. The next morning, I arrived at the office early to find Richard already in my office, going through my files. Can I help you with something? I asked from the doorway. He didn't even pretend to be embarrassed at being caught. Just reviewing the Johnson portfolio. Harrison mentioned you've been suggesting some unconventional investment strategies. Harrison should be discussing my clients with you behind my back. Richard straightened, fixing me with a cold stare. Everything in this firm is my business. The sooner you understand that, the better. As he brushed past me, he added, We're having dinner at our house tonight. Eleanor is expecting you at 7. Don't be late. It wasn't an invitation but a command. My mother-in-law Eleanor's dinners were elaborate affairs designed to showcase her perfect home, perfect cooking, and perfect family. They were also opportunities for Richard to continue his criticism under the guise of friendly conversation. Actually, I have plans tonight. I lied. Richard stopped, turning slowly. Cancel them. Family comes first at Parker Financial. His tone made it clear. This was another test of loyalty that I was already failing. I arrived at their mansion at precisely 7 o'clock that evening. Eleanor greeted me with air kisses and insincere compliments about my dress before immediately criticizing the way I'd styled my hair. It's so severe pulled back like that, she said, reaching to loosen a strand. Daniel likes softer women. That's why his college girlfriend Jessica was always so perfect for him. I stepped away from her touch. Daniel married me, not Jessica. Eleanor's smile remained fixed. Yes, well, decisions made in haste often need adjustment over time. The dinner was predictably uncomfortable. Richard dominated the conversation. frequently referencing company matters that had been handled before your time, Natalie, or that were beyond your current understanding of our business model. When I attempted to discuss the innovative portfolio strategy I developed for a new tech industry client, Richard cut me off. "Let's not bore everyone with technical details," he said dismissively. "I'm not bored," Daniel's sister Rachel surprised me by saying. "I'd like to hear more about Natalie's strategy." Richard's glare silenced her immediately. The rest of the meal continued with discussions about family vacations I hadn't been part of and childhood memories I couldn't share. I was a perpetual outsider at this table, and the message was clear. I always would be. Later that week, I discovered that the Westbrook account, my account, had indeed been reassigned to Harrison. When I confronted Daniel about it, he shrugged. "Dad made the decision. What was I supposed to do? Stand up for me, support your wife, be a partner instead of your father's yes man?" Daniel's face hardened. "You knew what the Parker family was like when you married me. The business has always come first. The business or your father's ego. They're one and the same," he admitted, and I realized this was the most honest thing he ever said about his family. That night, lying awake beside my sleeping husband, I made a decision. I couldn't change the Parker family dynamics, but I could change my place within them. The next morning, I requested a meeting with Richard. He kept me waiting for 45 minutes before his secretary ushered me in. "Make it quick," he said without looking up from his computer. "I have a lunch meeting." "I'm resigning," I stated simply. That got his attention. His head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "Is this some kind of negotiation tactic? Because it's childish and unprofessional." "No tactics. I'm giving my 2 weeks' notice, as my contract requires." Richard leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Does Daniel know about this little tantrum?" "This isn't a tantrum. It's a business decision. And no, I haven't told Daniel yet. I wanted to follow proper protocol and inform the CEO first." A smirk played at the corner of his mouth. "He won't support this, you know. His place is here, with the family. That's for Daniel to decide." Richard's smirk blossomed into a full smile. "You really don't understand, do you? Daniel is a Parker. This company is his birthright. He will always choose us." "Perhaps," I conceded. "But that's a separate issue from my resignation." "Is it?" Richard stood, circling his desk to stand over me. "Let me be clear. If you leave Parker Financial, you're walking away from everything. The family connections, the social standing, the financial security. Daniel won't choose you over all of that." I met his gaze steadily. "Again, that's Daniel's decision to make. My decision is already made." When I told Daniel that evening, his reaction was exactly as his father had predicted. "You can't quit. What will people think?" he exclaimed. "I don't care what people think. I care about being respected for my work." "This is about Dad, isn't it? You're just doing this to spite him." "This is about me refusing to stay where I'm not valued," I corrected him. "Where will you even go? Other firms won't hire you after you've walked out on family." "I've already accepted a position at Meridian Capital," I revealed. "They've been trying to recruit me for months." Daniel paled. "Meridian is our biggest competitor. You can't work for them. It's a betrayal." "I can and I will. I signed a contract this morning." "You did this behind my back?" His voice rose. "Without even discussing it with me first? Like your father reassigned my client without discussing it with me? Like you supported that decision without consulting me? That's different." "No, it's exactly the same. The difference is that I'm finally taking control of my own career instead of letting your father dictate my worth." Daniel's expression shifted from anger to panic. "What about us? What about our marriage?" "That depends," I said quietly. "Are you married to me or to Parker Financial? You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm asking you to be my partner, to support my career the way I've supported yours, to choose me over your father's manipulation just once." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, distress evident on his face. "I can't just walk away from the family business. It's my heritage, my future. And I can't stay in a place that systematically undermines and devalues me. So we're at an impasse." For 3 days, Daniel oscillated between anger, pleading, and cold silence. He brought his mother to our home to talk sense into me. Eleanor alternated between tears about tearing the family apart and thinly veiled threats about social ostracism if I left. Richard's approach was more direct. He called me into his office the day before my notice period ended. I'm prepared to offer you your own division, he said without preamble. Women-focused financial planning. You'll have autonomy, within reason of course. Within reason meaning under your ultimate control, I translated. I built this company from nothing. Everything under this roof answers to me, he confirmed. But you'll have more independence than any other director. Except Daniel and Harrison, and every other male family member who automatically outranks me regardless of experience or ability. Richard's facade of generosity cracked. You think you're special, entitled to bypass the hierarchy just because you married my son. Women like you are all the same, demanding respect instead of earning it. Thank you for making my decision even easier, I replied, standing to leave. My resignation stands. If you walk out that door, don't expect to come back. Not to this company and not to this family. I smiled for the first time in weeks. That sounds perfect. Daniel was waiting at home when I arrived, his expression grim. Dad called me, said you refused a very generous offer. A demeaning offer designed to put me in my place, I corrected. A women's division? That's segregation, not promotion. It was a compromise, Daniel argued. He was trying to meet you halfway. There is no halfway between respect and disrespect, Daniel. I deserve better than crumbs from your father's table. So that's it? You're choosing your pride over our marriage. I'm choosing self-respect over systematic humiliation. The question is, what are you choosing? The answer came the next morning when I woke to find Daniel gone, along with his essential belongings. A note on the kitchen counter read simply, I can't turn my back on my family legacy. I'm sorry. I felt a strange sense of calm as I read those words. There was pain, certainly, but also relief. The constant pressure to conform, to be smaller than I was, to accept less than I deserved, it was finally over. 2 months later, I was thriving at Meridian Capital. My innovative investment strategies, the very ones Richard had dismissed, had already attracted several significant new clients. I had my own apartment in a different part of the city, far from the social circles the Parkers dominated. The divorce proceedings were underway, relatively amicable given the circumstances. Daniel had chosen his father's empire over our marriage, exactly as Richard had predicted. What Richard hadn't predicted was how liberated I would feel. One evening after work, I received an unexpected call from Rachel, Daniel's sister. Can we meet for coffee? She asked, her voice hushed as if she was afraid of being overheard. We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe the following day. Rachel looked nervous, fidgeting with her napkin as we exchanged awkward pleasantries. I wanted to tell you that I admire what you did, she finally blurted out, standing up to Dad. No one does that. It cost me my marriage, I reminded her. She nodded sadly. I know, but you're free now. And I? She hesitated. I'm thinking about leaving too. The family business. All of it. The business, the family dinners, the constant criticism. Dad's been worse since you left. Now I'm the only target available. I reached across the table to squeeze her hand. What would you do instead? I have a degree in environmental science that I've never used. There's a conservation nonprofit that's been trying to recruit me for their board. That sounds perfect for you. Dad would disown me, she whispered. Probably, I agreed. But is his approval worth sacrificing your own happiness? As we continued talking, I realized that Rachel was where I had been just a few months ago, trapped in the golden cage of Parker family expectations. The difference was that she had watched me escape, had seen that there was life beyond Richard's control. 2 weeks later, Rachel resigned from Parker Financial. Richard was true to his word. He cut her off completely, financially and emotionally. Daniel, predictably, sided with their father. But something unexpected happened. Harrison's wife Melissa reached out to both of us, confessing her own misery within the Parker dynasty. Then one of Richard's sisters, long relegated to a symbolic role within the company despite her financial acumen, made contact. What had begun as my personal exodus became something larger, a quiet rebellion of the women who had been sidelined, dismissed, and controlled by Richard Parker and his patriarchal empire. We started meeting regularly, first just to support each other through the social and familial fallout, but soon for more. Rachel secured her position with a conservation nonprofit. Melissa returned to medical school, a dream she'd abandoned when she married Harrison. Richard's sister Vivian started consulting for investment firms that actually valued her expertise. As for me, 6 months after leaving Parker Financial, I was promoted to Senior Investment Director at Meridian. My client portfolio included 3 major accounts that had transferred from Parker Financial specifically to continue working with me. I heard through industry gossip that Richard was furious about the defections, had even accused me of client poaching despite the non-solicitation agreement I carefully honored. The truth was simpler. Clients recognized value and integrity, even when family did not. 1 year to the day after my resignation, Rachel, Melissa, Vivian, and I met for dinner to celebrate our independence. As we shared stories of our successes and struggles, I realized we had created something Richard Parker would never understand. A family based on mutual respect rather than obligation and control. To freedom, Rachel proposed a toast, raising her glass. To choosing ourselves, Melissa added. To new beginnings, said Vivian. I smiled at these women who had become more truly my family than the Parkers ever were. To all of us, I said, and to whatever comes next. Whatever came next would be our choice, not Richard's. That was victory enough.